Hey everybody, it's the Mad Master here. I'm doing a video today and I just thought about this. I was going to talk about this before, but I decided to, it just kind of came back in my mind as I was doing the previous video. So my whole thing is that, and I haven't done a video about the, what in a while. So I figured I'd talk about this. And upon review of my standard beliefs about this whole thing, and I'm talking about the CV, the thing that we've been going through for 2.5 years in, the world. The whole thing, what always bothered me about this, and this is something that still bothers me, this is a specific issue, is the way they count things that is remarkably different than what they did before. And I know it's that because this is not how just the way that they counted things. And it still bothers me that they counted, this is the whole thing about it's another with versus from thing. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit because the thing is, would they have counted people that had, you're a vector, humans are vectors of viruses, okay? So you might be carrying the common cold at any time, but you don't get sick, you're a carrier. There's other things that people get that they never get symptoms, like certain vertically smiling, to quote Black Flag, the vertical smile transmitted things that people never develop symptoms for, so they don't even test for it a lot of the time in standard vertical smile testing. I don't know why I'm using all these code words, but I just feel like it. So this whole thing is like, what happened was they set these standards about the threshold of viral load that you have too in the testing, and they said, oh, well, even these people that have, even Mr. Fauci himself talked about like how the cycle thresholds could trap people into being, part of this case-demic and all this stuff back in the day. I just read this book by Alex Berenson, so I'm going to be referring to that a little bit, Pandemia. Now, Alex Berenson is a weird duck, as I've said in previous videos. I don't agree with him on the whole marijuana thing. I think he's a little bit hysterical about that, even though some of his basic points probably hold some merit. And he was very much a provocateur during the whole CV19 crisis. I will say that he did try. I think he is a provocateur. I think he is kind of, he likes to shock people. Now, that said, most of the stuff that he talks about in his articles and his booklets and his books is true. He predicted, rightly, that the certain Action Jackson nation, I'm using the Matt McKinley codes again because I think they're hilarious, Action Jackson nation, the needle, would lose efficacy after a couple of months. And he said this in June, I believe, of 2021. And people were all like, it's a miracle. We're going to go back to normal now. There's no more CV. Oh. And people are talking about that. And he was like, no, we got to set, he's setting the alarm, he's sounding the alarm about that. And what essentially happened to him is he probably did do it in kind of a provoking way on Twitter, but he was banished from Twitter for saying this stuff, period. And he turned out to be right. He turned out to be right with the Wi-Fi boosts as well. I'm using more code. He was right. So I still have problems with the whole narrative that's been thrust upon us in the last couple of years, because he was right. he was called the world's wrongest man by Vice or one of these, or Vox or one of these fucking stupid outlets who are now, you know, ironically, Vice and Vox are some of the worst people about the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing. They're like totally Team Amber Heard. I'm like, what the fuck? Not unexpected by these trash merchants, but you know, it's the way it is. And you know, 3 years ago I was like, Fox, oh, they're so good, you know. I used to be on the side of a lot of these people. Now, what started me on the road to really distrusting the missing link media, as some people call it, or whatever, the big tech media, whatever, what started me on the road of skepticism of that was the Daily Beast talking about the Iron Cross being a hate symbol of Nazis, because I know for a fact that 2006, if you had an Iron Cross on a shirt, I bought a shirt from JCPenney that has Iron Crosses on it and dragons. I still have the fucking shirt somewhere. It's like a nice shirt. And it's like, it was a cool symbol at the time because of West Coast choppers or whatever the fuck. But no, it's a hate symbol. Oh, you know. I knew that the media was full of shit by the, you know, that was like the turning point for me with that article about that shooter. I was like, what? He had like a hammer and sickle button. Why was he was not a Nazi. If he had beliefs, like if he had a manifesto that he hated certain races or something, then that's one thing. But the guy was just a fucking lunatic. So the media gets shit wrong all the time. What was I talking about? What is this video about? Holy shit. So yeah. Oh, anyways, yeah, the CV. So I forgot what I was talking about. So yeah, I don't believe that the narrative we were given about with versus from was anything that was in the normal thing that was being done. Because I don't, and so when they say, oh, there were 10 million deaths or 1 million deaths, I don't know the context of that. So I'm not going to fucking put my flag at half-mast. I'm sorry, you know, and I think a lot of people died. Okay, I do think people died. I do think that, and now it's coming out that people that had the Action Jackson died too, you know. I mean, they said, like, there was an article that said 40% of the people that died in 2021 had the Jackson. You know, they went to the movie Action Jackson Nation. You know, it's like, I'm not saying it doesn't help or something like that, but I'm just seeing the movie. But I'm just saying there enough people died. It would be unacceptable by any other year's terms. 40% of people dying that still had that. That's like it's not a very, I mean, it's almost on the level of the influenza shot at that point. So it's like only 50% effective or whatever, you know. I mean, it's still quite a bit of people it's saved, but it's like by the measures that were set when they said they wanted to do these things, like 95% effective, blah, 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 you know. That was something that was like a measure that they wanted to get to. Didn't Fauci himself say that? You know, it's like 40% of, that's 60% effective against that. 60%. You know, 40, if I'm doing the math properly. I'm not a math whiz, I'll just say that, even though I'm a musician. But yeah, it's just, it's a travesty that this has been the case with a lot of these things. Like the whole notion that we're gonna count these things in such a, you know, such a micromanaged manner compared to other pandemics and viruses. And I can tell you that I want to know if things were counted the old way before with the CV. Let's say we counted just people that died from it, or just people that died from it that, you know, maybe they did have a condition, okay? Maybe they had a comorbidity, but it wasn't like they weren't on death's door, okay? Let's just say that people who weren't on death's door that were pushed over the edge. Let's count that as the deaths, or let's count people that died purely from it, and then separate that from people that were on death's door or were like really sick or old or whatever. Compare those numbers to 57 influenza pandemic and 1967 influenza pandemic, and what were the numbers, you know, with versus from with that, or not with versus from, because they didn't count it like that. I can tell you right now, I know they didn't. World Health Organization had a link that I put in a really old video, I think from 2020, where that's basically admitted they didn't count with cases with 2009 swine flu. So I even read an article, it could have been 10 times higher if they would have. You know, it's like, well, why are they changing these guidelines? Why are they changing these numbers? Nobody answered my fucking question when I had it, you know, 2 years ago. Why they're counting things that way. Nobody ever answered that. Why do I want that answered? Well, I just want to know the truth. You know, come out and say, oh, well, this is why we did it. We took this and we had this, you know, projection. It was like, okay, that's fine. I'll accept the truth. And if it's an actual logical, rational reason they did it, they counted things the way they did, then I'm fine with it. I'll be like, oh, that's explicable and rational. But they never fucking did that. You know, they always were like, oh my God, all these people are dying. And then you come to find out they're like 800 pounds or, you know, it's like, I could tell you, I know like 4 people that have had the virus like 2 or 3 times, or supposedly like 2 times. They're all ginormous people that could eat 2 of me. You know, I'm not trying to insult people. I think, you know, I've just known some of these people. They're huge. And nobody's, you know, only Bill Maher was the only mainstream media guy that talked about like being healthy and losing weight and stuff. Nobody fucking talked about that. Why? Why? I just ask these questions. Why? I want to know why. You know, I always want to know why. Is that, I guess that's wrong to a lot of people, or problematic, or what's the word? Alienating people, because I want to know why things happen. I wanted to know why things happened when I was growing up. You know, I was like, well, why is this happening? Why is this divorce happening with my parents? Or why does the son do this? How does a car? Like my father explained, like, oh, this is how a car works, why it works, blah, blah, blah. I always was curious about things. So I want to know why things were changed. I want to know why the thresholds for testing were so, you know, like if you had a little bit of a viral load, you were a positive case, you know, even if you weren't sick, or even like actually Fauci admitted that you might not even been transmissible with some of the cases that were counted as positive cases. That was the real revelation from pandemia to me. Not only the with versus from thing being substantiated, which I wish, you know, it is very, there is like a very big spectrum gray area with that whole thing, because what do you count as a with case or a from case? You know, it's like, well, I would just say that people that were going to die soon, that were pushed over the cliff by it, that if we took that notion out of it, then how much would that affect the numbers and the totals? That's my opinion. People that were, just because they had diabetes doesn't mean they were going to die tomorrow. You know, like, oh, the COVID, that's where the right wing gets things wrong. But when they're counting like people that were in a car accident and they test positive, but they die from an unrelated cause, that's the thing that we have to look at, not the comorbidities in general, because people have comorbidities. I mean, I do, you know, I'm technically obese, so I'd be counted as a with case, probably, right? Maybe, but I don't actually, probably not, because it's I'm not morbidly obese, so it's like I wouldn't probably be counted as a with case necessarily. But you had this and that, this, blah blah blah, and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like, well, the same. But I'll ask those questions. That's what I have to do. So I'm gonna do another video about this, and that's about all.